In the heart of Arizona lies a place of timeless beauty, a land filled with ancient myths and mystique. Below its surface lies vast, invisible energies that can have a profound and unique effect on all life forms on this earth. From time warps and past life images to supernatural energies and visions of spirits, all of that and more lie within the boundaries of Sedona. Susan O'Leary went on a journey which took her far beyond imagination.
People claim that ancient power and magic lie within the mountains and canyons of Sedona. It was an atmosphere of mystery and strange tranquility that greeted me.
Susan's first encounter with Sedona's strange and unknown forces was the vortex energy centers. Gaia Lamb, a transformation guide, led the way.
Earth is a living, evolving being filled with places of tremendous power. These are vortices, sites linked to other dimensions.
Vortexes are energy centers where the energy is able to move in and out of the Earth.
Sedona is one of the major power points on our planet. There is Cathedral, a magnetic vortex where the energy moves down and through, presenting feminine energy. And Bell Rock, an electric vortex where the energy moves up and out, presenting masculine energy.
It is said that Bell Rock is a site where energies from outer space enter the aura and the body of the Earth. It connects our planet with other celestial bodies within and beyond our solar system.
Bell Rock is an entry point into the inner Earth. Many people have seen flying saucers or spaceships around Bell Rock. It is an entry point for the spaceships to go into the inner Earth.
In Sedona, the energies can be positive or negative. Your thoughts and emotions hold the key to how these energies can work for you or against you.
So if a person comes here and they're in a bad mood, their bad mood will get worse. It will really, in a sense, mirror what's going on within you.
Or magnify.
Magnify, exactly. Now, what we want to be able to do here is feel and sense the energy and also to see it.
As we were doing the breathing exercises, a bizarre sensation of heaviness came over me. This, Gaia explained, was the energy from the vortex at work.
The energies here are so strong. All right?
You can definitely feel it.
Definitely.
At the same time, as I looked across towards Bell Rock, I was suddenly able to see the aura emanating from it.
Because the energies from Bell Rock move up and out towards the cosmos, this is the perfect place to focus on what you want in life.
At Bell Rock, there is an Alice through the looking glass portal. Before entering, you ask the spirits for something you want. Then slowly, feeling the forces around you, you walk from one dimension into another. A burst of wind greeted me on the other side. A sign? I felt a chill go through my body as though someone or something was walking with me.
Reverend Pamela Hoffman explained to Susan how strong the energies of Sedona really can work.
If you do not belong here or you come here with the wrong attitudes, the energies in Sedona have a way of picking you up and spitting you out. It can work for you and it can work against you.
Several negative vortices exist throughout the world, dangerous in their effect on human life and consciousness. We are all familiar with the Bermuda Triangle. And then there is the Persian Gulf and Mount Calvary, the site of the crucifixion. Stonehenge in England is a positive vortex, which since ancient times and cultures has been linked to spirit and spiritual realms. It is also here in Sedona that the ancient Hopi Mesas came to live almost 1,000 years ago. Martin Wolf took Susan to one of those sacred places.
It is here that the Native American legends began, surrounded by the wondrous beauty.
And behind that beauty is the great mystery. And that's something for each person to determine for themselves what that great mystery is.
Another sacred site of the Native Americans are the medicine wheels. It is said that these circles of stones possess supernatural forces.
An air of sanctity prevailed. The ritual to enter this ancient site was about to start.
So when we come into a wheel, we walk clockwise. Our steps are like prayers that turn the wheel of life. A prayer for all living beings, for the healing of the sacred circle. The wheel also creates this gateway of energy, this vortex.
Whatever power the land here exudes, I would never know. But once again, I could feel the exotic forces of Sedona at work. At the Sedona Sanctuary, people experienced Reiki, a 2,500-year-old Japanese tradition. It is the natural laying of hands involving channeling of energy from people like Mason Rumney, an energy consultant.
The hands become the electrodes. And the body, Einstein even talked about it as an incredible electrical system. And that electrical system is either blocked somewhere with an energy flow, and these energies could flow through you to someone.
After a while, I felt this incredible warmth spreading through my body. Mason told me that the energy they channel to your body stimulates the body's own innate wisdom, balancing and healing it. And who could choose more idyllic surroundings?
Many UFO sightings and alien contacts have been linked with the Sedona area. Robert Shapiro claims to be in contact with these beings from outer space.
A lot of people believe that there's underground ET bases out around Boynton Canyon and maybe around Sycamore Canyon. Who's to say how long they've been there? So it's hard to say whether this area, because of its energy, attracts ETs, or whether because ETs have been coming here for thousands of years.
What do you think the Palladians and the other ETs want?
They want to know what the heck we're doing down here and why. A, how we can take it. B, what we're doing with it. C, why we're doing it. And D, is there anything in it for them?
Robert also claims to channel these beings.
I have certain beings that I feel the most comfortable with, that I've worked with for a long time.
It is one of those beings named Zosh that came through Robert as we were speaking. Zosh was able to tell me more about the future on Earth.
There will be some changes, there will be some storms, there will be some earthquakes, but it will not be what you have been led to believe is Armageddon. And true Armageddon happens within yourself. This experience you are having in life is designed to show you what works and, perhaps more importantly, what doesn't work. The key to being happy and fulfilled is to live your wisdom.
It is with this enlightenment and better understanding of Sedona's mystics that Susan told me she has to go back there.
Something magical happened up there. I'll need time to put it all in perspective, but whatever it was magic.
Although our government continues to deny any knowledge of beings from other worlds, many citizens not only say extraterrestrials exist, but they say they have actually had personal contact with them. In fact, many say they have had the sometimes terrifying experience of being abducted by them. Look through any bookstore, and you'll find a variety of books containing detailed accounts of abductions and apparent human research by aliens. Often, they are written by psychologists, PhDs, and MDs. Often, reports were elicited from patients during hypnosis. Many give detailed descriptions of their abductors. Some have made intricate sketches from their memories. And some abductees even maintain that they were impregnated and gave birth to hybrid offspring on subsequent abductions. But just imagine if you had such an experience. Who would you tell? And would they believe you? Psychologists say most abductees would be reluctant to go public with their bizarre stories. And for this reason, those who have come forward may be only the tip of the iceberg. We were contacted by a young lady from Montana who agreed to tell her story, with the stipulation that we not show her face or her name on television. Now here's her extraordinary account.
The reason I've decided to tell this now is because I want other people who have had similar experiences to know that they're not alone. They're not crazy. I was going to school in Missoula, and it was spring break, so I was headed home to see my folks. The sun was going down when I hit the cutoff to 191. You know, it gets pretty windy and slow in that area. It's very desolate. After a while, I came around this one curve, and I saw this really bright light. It was in the middle of the road. It was so blinding. At first, I thought it was the spotlight from like a police car. But then I realized that it was too high off the ground to be coming from a car. So I put my foot on the brake, but it didn't do anything. I just kept going. The motor ran like my foot was still on the gas. But then the truck slowed down and stopped right in front of that light. I was so scared. I had absolutely no control over my body. As much as I didn't want to go, I opened the car door and I started walking towards the light. I remember thinking, why am I doing it? But I just did it. All of a sudden I went out and everything was dark all around me. But it was like I could make out this ramp. And then all of a sudden this door went up. I couldn't see what the door was in. My eyes were fixed on the opening. I started walking in. It was like my body just took me in. Then I don't know what happened. I guess I must have blacked out because one minute I'm walking and the next minute I woke up on this table, like a medical table. All these medical instruments were poking at me and I could hear this whirring sound, like a dentist drill, but not quite that loud. I couldn't feel any pain when they touched me. I couldn't feel anything at all, really. I just felt like my body was made of lead. I couldn't move. Even my fingers, I wanted to see who was doing this to me, but my eyes, they wouldn't move. I was totally paralyzed. I don't even know how long I was lying there. It seemed like time was different. And then, I guess I must have blacked out again. The next thing I remember, I was back in my truck. The motor was still running and the bright light was gone. My head hurt, it ached, but I got back on the road, feeling very confused. I looked at my watch, it was 1 a.m. I'd expected to be home by 10. I finally made it home. I went in and looked in the mirror. I couldn't see any marks on my body, but I knew I didn't dream this. Then I looked at my head. Right inside the hairline, there was this little mark. It's never gone away, and it's been a year now. For a long time, I didn't tell anyone about this. Graduated now, and I have a good job. People would think I'm crazy, but I know this really happened.
If it were only one person, it would be harder to believe. But when you compare all the various accounts and see the similarities from one to another, it can really make a believer out of you as you drive late at night on some deserted highway. A lovely tree in the front yard of your new dream home. Perfect? Well, not if it happens to lie on top of an undiscovered graveyard. Experiences by one family in Texas turned their dream home into a nightmare and became an obsession for the entire neighborhood.
This may seem like an ordinary neighborhood, but 7 out of 8 families picked up and moved far from here at tremendous cost, including losing their mortgages. I wonder what really happened to drive them all away.
The box office hit Poltergeist tells the story of a terror-stricken family whose home was built on top of an undisclosed graveyard. Good horror fiction? Not necessarily. During the same time the movie was released, these silver screen nightmares became reality for residents in a Texas subdivision. Their story began in 1981 when Ben and Jean Williams moved into their dream home, a newly constructed house in this brand new subdivision. Shortly after settling in, however, a strange feeling crept over them. At first, the feeling manifested itself slowly as mere oddities. Hundreds of ants invading the house, snakes slithering through the floorboards, plants not growing, and unusual sink spots in the yard that couldn't be filled in. Then other things began. Toilets flushing on their own, the garage door opening and closing by itself, unexplained noises and images, none of which had a logical explanation. At first, neither Jean nor Bill talked about what was happening or what could be causing it, although each had their own private thoughts. Thoughts that frightened and bewildered them, once too bizarre to even contemplate. It was as if their house were taking on a life of its own. Run by what? Ghosts? But why? How? Houses built in the Newport subdivision were built on what was once McKinney family land. The McKinneys are no longer living, but at one time they were wealthy landowners with a huge plantation and countless slaves.
I just knew there was some slaves buried down. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Back up in there.
We spoke with Freddie Eagleton, the oldest living resident of Barrett Station.
Yeah, I've been here all my life.
He confirmed there were no grave markers in that area.
The place was owned by Will McKinney, and he let, our folks bury up in here for a long time,
The site of these unmarked graves became known as Black Hope Cemetery. John Armstrong, the grandson of Harrison Barrett, founder of Barrett Station, showed us the place.
So do you have firsthand knowledge of the fact that in that Newport area there were actually people buried there?
That's true. That's true.
Descendants of the slaves of the McKinneys live here in Barrett Station, not far from Crosby. They remember Black Hope Cemetery. Some of their relatives are buried there.
I know one of my seniors that come here, he has a family that was buried out there at the Black Hope Cemetery.
Oh yeah, lots of people buried there. I have buried some of them in there myself.
We spoke with Keith Krizak, whose father Daniel owned White Cemetery during this time, one of the few established cemeteries in the area. I asked if he thought it was possible to have these homes built on top of a graveyard.
Folks were buried back there, and the cemetery, just no one knew that there was a cemetery back there at all when they developed the area.
In fact, some did know.
Jasper Norton lived at the house behind me. He has since died, but he was one of the few people who warned the residents in the Newport area that they were building on graves. In fact, he himself buried people in those graves when he was 14 years old. He pointed out some of the unmarked grave sites, but apparently nobody listened to him.
As time went on, whatever spirits might have been awakened at the Williams house influenced everyone who came into contact with them. The family experienced an uncanny number of misfortunes, deaths, and diseases. Even the animals were affected, behaving strangely and dying unexpectedly. The Williams withstood their plight in silence. Then their worst fears were realized when their neighbors building a pool unearthed the corpses of two people, a black man and woman.
They would never find out that if they wouldn't dug a pool. I know where the graveyard was in that area before they went to building all in there. When they went in there and selling that land, and they just went selling, they wasn't thinking about the grave was in there.
After that, the terror escalated. Footsteps became almost commonplace. Ben was the first to notice the shadowy figures that loomed in the dark. Sometimes they would literally attack him in the garage, suffocating him. Jean finally had enough. She took a shovel and began digging next to an old tree, a tree, she was warned, that marked a gravesite. However, she didn't make it but a few inches down. Her daughter died suddenly that day. With nowhere to turn and no way to console themselves, the family left that house forever. Although there are people like realtors and neighbors who may not believe what happened to the Williams family, it was hard not to notice all the for sale signs.
The truth is, you never really know what you're building on top of. And in the process, if you disturb sleeping spirits, for this family, their lives can never be the same. For anyone else, well, hopefully, it's just a movie.
The field of parapsychology in America is only a little over 100 years old. But the Native Americans have been aware of the spirit world for thousands of years. The Navajos believed there were many spirit forces at work in this world. One was the Shinde, spirits of departed persons which take on various forms on Earth, often human. Even today, the Navajo spirits are very real to anyone from any culture who encounters Arizona's ghostly maiden, Red Feather. The Grand Canyon in the northwest, the Salt River Canyon in the south. Arizona is a land of canyons. One sandstone-walled canyon was found by the Navajo and called the Spirit Canyon. Its walls were adorned with magic drawings by ancient peoples. Today, this sacred canyon is known to only a few, and they know it as the home of the ghost, Red Feather. As told by the Navajo, her story begins about 150 years ago, when John Martin, a white trader from Prescott, accepted a young Navajo girl as payment for gunpowder and whiskey. John Martin built her a house which still stands today, although in ruins. It was quite a unique dwelling, incorporating both white man style and the Navajo eight-sided Hogan shape. In 1870, John Smith's bride bore him a healthy baby daughter, Anna. The mother died in childbirth. Anna grew to be a young beauty, with her mother's dark hair highlighted by her father's red. But she preferred to wear Navajo clothes and be called Red Feather. She was not accepted in the white man's world, and she hated her abusive father. So she ran away from home and made her way to her mother's Navajo village. Little did she know, she would also be an outcast in the Indian world. From the day she arrived, forced to work and eat alone, the only place she felt at peace was in the Spirit Canyon. She studied her ancestors' drawings on the wall. One in particular she read as depicting a young man who endeavored to join the spirit world by leaping into the sacred canyon and taking his life. Unfortunately, this became the inspiration for Red Feather to leave the world she was born into but never fit into. And in 1887, she too ended her life in the canyon. Not long afterwards, local Navajos began seeing a strange vision of a young maiden in and around the canyon. The apparition looked very much like Red Feather. It was understood that she had indeed become one of the Chindi. Of course, the story of Red Feather could easily be discounted as nothing more than pure Indian legend. if it were not for the many corroborating dates and facts, and the modern-day sightings.
When I was a little girl, I used to go out to Spirit Canyon, which is a sacred place for the Indian people. One morning, I went out there just after sunrise. I saw a woman standing on the edge. She was wearing the traditional clothes. She looked like you could see right through her. I couldn't see her face because it looked like it was all black. Then she was gone, just like that, and I couldn't believe it. I was really scared. And after that, I never went out there again.
We like to hike a lot, my husband and I. We take a tent and a little food and camp out for a couple days. We were out in the painted desert. We found this great canyon with petroglyphs on the walls. We decided to camp right there. We had a pretty good fire going. I felt kind of funny all of a sudden. I looked up and there was this thing, this woman or girl. She was kind of glowing. Her face I couldn't see. It was glowing all white. I've never seen anything like it. Then she just faded away, vanished. It scared the daylights out of us.
We were on vacation with the grandchildren. We like to take the back roads a lot. We really feel that you see much more that way, especially with the kids. We'd been to the National Monument north of Window Rock, and we were on 191 headed back down to the Petrified Forest. I saw a very strange girl walking on the side of the road, dressed in Indian clothes. I'm not sure what it was, but something made me stop. And I looked at her, and she just vanished. I'm not the kind of person that believes in this weird stuff. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. She just disappeared.
Well, on your next trip to Arizona, if you see a pretty young Navajo girl along the way, looking a bit out of place, I would suggest that you don't stop and chat. We all know the stories of spirits haunting houses and even people. But in this story, the spirits of young children keep vigilance over an old railway track, acting as guardian angels to keep potential victims out of harm's way.
More often than not, ghost stories are frightening, but even more frightening when the story is true. Let's go back to the south side of San Antonio.
It was late one evening in 1984 when Paula Williams was driving home from work, taking her usual route. A young girl standing alone on the side of the road caught her attention.
Are you all right? Do you need a ride?
The girl only nodded a yes and got in the car.
What's your name, honey?
She gave Paula her name and pointed to where she lived.
Cindy Sue.
Cindy Sue was extremely quiet and seemed to stare through Paula. It unnerved her. As they drove, they passed over some railroad tracks. Cindy Sue's eyes met the sign and locked. At her house, Cindy Sue remained in the car. Paula thought she might be having problems at home and suggested that she would go first and talk to her parents. Paula told the woman who answered the door her daughter, Cindy Sue, was waiting in the car.
Hello.
She started yelling and even threatened to call the police if Paula didn't get off her property.
She's in the car right now.
Then she said the strangest thing.
Your child's in the
Just
car.
let Cindy Sue rest in peace.
Paula was taken back by the strange turn of events and walked back to the car, confused. When she got to the car, no one was there. Paula remembered Cindy Sue fastening her seatbelt and locking her door. The door was still locked and the seatbelt still fastened, but Cindy Sue had vanished. It was on her way back when Paula remembered why everything felt so unsettling. It was the street names near the railroad track. All of them the names which belonged to children.
Behind this discovery was the tragic tale of innocent children, and even more so, their remaining spirits.
Okay, so Roy, where are we?
We're out on the southern part of San Antonio on Mission Road.
Now this is the famous road, right?
This is the famous road where the children were killed in the bus accident back in the 40s.
It was a cold but clear afternoon when a school bus was making its last delivery of school children. About 10 children were still on the bus. The bus had to cross the railroad tracks. There was no warning of the oncoming train.
The bus stalled on the track and the train come along, and before the kids could get off, it hit the school bus and killed all the kids.
This disastrous accident started a legend that motivated many people to come to these tracks.
From any of these places here, you can stop your car, completely stop it, turn the motor off and leave it in neutral, and it will pick up speed all the way till it gets across the railroad track.
The strange thing about this is that the road doesn't go downhill. It doesn't even run level.
If you look to the railroad track, it appears that the road is elevated.
There's no question. I mean, I can see a hill going up.
Okay, how do these cars get up the hill by themselves?
If people's cars stall or something, these children supposedly pushes the car across the track to safety.
It's come through the safety zone.
And once they're safe of the railroad track, then the car stops.
Skeptics say the explanation may be a magnetic field in the area. But how do they explain what happens next? Fingerprints on the back of the cars, as if some imaginary hands pushed it forward. Putting powder on the back of the car helps to see the fingerprints clearly.
They say on the bumper and on the trunk. I think with the wind, we'll do it right here and see what happens. I'm determined to check it out for myself. I watched a couple of cars do it, but just to see if it can really happen. This is about where they say they stop. Turn the car off, put it in neutral. Take my foot off the brake. And just sit here and start going. And it's beginning to pick up speed. This is amazing. No hands, no feet. This car is just going on its own. Across the railroad track, I'm gonna have to brake because now we're gonna go downhill.
There was no doubt in my mind the car was pushed over those tracks. Was it gravity, or was it the legendary little spirits? There was only one way to find out, and there it was. I could feel my heart beating.
Possible finger marks right here. And a couple of prints right here. Well, that really is pretty amazing. Although we weren't able to find anyone to verify every detail of this story, one fact does remain. There hasn't been a single train accident on this set of tracks since the children's tragedy in the 1940s. Somehow, every stalled car has managed to cross the tracks, reaching the other side in safety.
There was one thing I still wanted to find out. What did Paula see that night on her way back home?
This is the neighborhood supposedly where they have street signs with the children's names from the accident.
Bobby, Alan, Nancy, Carol. It was here in the streets close to the railroad tracks where we found the answer to Paula's mysterious young rider who never reached her house that fateful afternoon. Cindy Sue.
Since the beginning of time, man has talked of great monsters. Even in modern times, there have been many reports of sea monsters in various lakes and oceans around the world. Today, man seems more interested than ever in giant creatures of the deep. Of course, Scotland's Loch Ness Monster was the most famous. But in North America, we have our own serpents of the deep. Take the Gloucester, Massachusetts monster, for instance. In 1817, 28 persons, including sea captains, military officers, businessmen, and clergymen, signed sworn statements that they'd seen it. But let's focus on two creatures that have actually been captured on film and videotape. Chesapeake Bay has long been known for its fishing and crabbing. But about 20 years ago, people began seeing some strange sea life in the Chesapeake Bay. This sparked the interest of the Enigma Project, a scientific group formed in 1978 to investigate claims of unexplained phenomena.
Chessie first came to my attention back in the late 1970s when I was working in industry. Articles began to appear in local papers about people seeing large snake-like animals they were calling Nessie Jr. at the time. But that really kind of kicked the whole subject off. And it really didn't blossom until 1982 when Robert and Karen Frew shot the videotape here on Kent Island. There was a great deal of media interest, and there was also some scientific interest. The videotape came to the attention of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, where they offered to perform some computer image enhancement on it. At that point, the Frew videotape was taken to the Smithsonian and actually given an audience by scientists down there in hopes that they could come up with some type of origin or pronouncement on what it was. They didn't. They were only able to establish that the videotape depicted an animate object.
The Enigma Project received reports of over 100 sightings of Chessie over the years, but of all those, the most extraordinary came when Carol Taylor and her father got the closest look ever at the serpent, when they stood only 35 feet from it.
On July 16th, 1982, my father and I were out to dinner, and we came down here just to see the beach area. It was a nice summer evening. We certainly didn't expect to see anything on the water, except a few boats maybe. And I saw what appeared to be a dog nose sticking up and a wake, like a dog was swimming in the water. But it didn't really look like a dog. Got down off the jetty and I ran down the beach. It appeared to have a head that was about the size of a rugby ball, and I could see 5 or 6 humps that were all sticking up about this far, and it was swimming in an up and down fashion. It appeared to me to be about the size of a telephone pole around, and to be like a big long snake, maybe 30 feet long. I didn't know what it was, but I was more curious than anything else, so it never occurred to me to be frightened of it.
1,000 miles away, a similar creature has been sighted over the years. Lake Superior is a vast body, covering some 32,000 square miles, with depths over 1,200 feet. Its waters are known to be unpredictable and mysterious. Franklin Cavell was head keeper at the lighthouse at Split Rock on the North Shore. On June the 2nd, 1931, he observed a large snake-like creature 40 feet long and as big around as a big pine, swimming in front of the lighthouse for about a half an hour. Over the years, others claimed to have seen a similar creature at various locations in the Big Lake. Then in 1961, a crew member on the William A. Irvin named Robert Satala actually took photographs of a similar animal off the port bow 10 miles from Duluth. And in 1995, the Lake Superior monster surfaced again, seen by a high school lad near Thunder Bay, Ontario. And he was able to capture it on home video.
Well, it was about the second week of May, and I just put my boat in for the season. I wasn't very far offshore, but the water was pretty deep out there. I stopped to let it idle so I could take the cover off and adjust the carburetor. Then I saw something out in the water. At first I thought it was a fish, but then I saw it was really big. Then I remembered I had my camera on the seat, so I grabbed it and got a pretty good shot. It was about 25 or 30 feet long and about 2 feet around, like a big snake, but it didn't slither from side to side like a snake. It was more up and down. I've never seen anything quite like this. Well, I do know it wasn't a fish or an eel, but it was definitely alive. It was huge, at least 25 feet long.
Two sea monsters. Could they be related? One thing for sure, next time you go for a walk on the shore, don't forget your camera. Howling at a full moon, a fanged creature, part human, part animal. Folklore says I have just described a werewolf. But how did this legend begin? And is there any validity to it?
Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night will turn into a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is full and bright. Those words were spoken by the gypsy woman Mileva, played by legendary Russian actress Maria Uspenskaya in the 1941 Universal release of The Wolfman. It's filmed right here, as a matter of fact. It also featured another young star by the name of Lon Chaney Jr., who played a part of the Wolfman. But that's the movies, right? I mean, werewolves don't exist in real life. Not in present day, do they?
We know werewolves in mythology and modern horror stories. This is where we expect them to stay, in our fantasies. But through centuries, mutilated bodies of innocent victims have created legends of werewolf attacks. There has even been reports of sightings of these beasts. Dating back centuries, the most common belief was that werewolves were a creation of the devil, or may even be a witch's revenge. All the legends had one thing in common. Werewolves were never detected during the day. It was at night when these creatures lurked from the shadows. Stimulated by the full moon and forced by an inexplicable desire, the man-wolf set out to get his victim for no other reason but for the urge to kill. Could some men somehow transform themselves into demonic, hairy monsters which prowl when the moon is full?
Even if there were a remote chance of that happening, it would be too bizarre to be believable. Or would it? In fact, doctors have a medical term for this werewolf-type syndrome: lycanthropy.
They say that in every one of us lies secret, savage desires, safely stored away. Most of us keep those desires under tap, but then there are those who are overwhelmed by ancient memories of when humans were hunters and killers. Thus is born the man-wolf. Although lycanthropy can be triggered by several mental conditions, the fact remains that it exists. Dr. Gerard Fieldman, a psychiatrist, treats people who suffer from lycanthropy. He told us the reason why it is not a widely publicized issue is fear of prosecution, because his patients have killed.
Lycanthropy has never been used in court as the grounds for committing murder. With all the skeptics out there, it would be impossible to prove.
Dr. Fieldman told us the killings were almost never traced back to his patients because the victims are total strangers.
People with lycanthropy suffer from a physical and hormonal imbalance which affects both brain and body. Dr. Fieldman says his patients are normal people in everyday life. We met one of his patients. If we expected someone with fangs and yellow eyes, well, we were disappointed.
When I look at other people, they look normal, I guess, like I do, and sometimes I just wonder, do they feel the same way I do? Do they have the same kind of urges I do?
When excessive amounts of hormones are discharged in the body, it could have a major effect on someone, mentally and physically.
With some patients, there's an incredible transformation. Facial hair develops, there's an increase in physical strength, there's a craving for human blood, and then they develop a delusion of being a wolf.
Certain times of the month, these symptoms reach full-blown status.
There's no question about it. The full moon is my worst enemy.
The dangerous part is that lycanthropy causes an irresistible impulse to hunt and destroy.
If I killed people? Can you ask me something else?
Believe me, these people kill. It's out of their control. It's not someone just having a bad day.
It's horrible. I mean, people just don't understand, you know, the living hell that it is. I mean, you know, this isn't Hollywood. It's not like in the movie Wolf, you know, where Jack Nicholson gets the girl and everything works out. I mean, it's, you know, it's just, it's a living hell. It's lonely and it's horrible.
Although our interviews merely show the possibility of so-called werewolves in modern society, no proof exists of killings in the last century by these people. But as they say, no one is prepared to rush forward and admit to senseless bloodshed. So next time when the moon is full and you feel a twinge in your stomach and your hands begin to shake, you may become a werewolf. Or you may have indigestion. In either case, you'll feel better in the morning.
When you see a snake, what do you feel? Fear? In America, maybe, but throughout the world, snakes have played a powerful and revered role in many rituals and ancient traditions.
Many of us can relate to Indiana Jones's phobia of snakes. For a long time, controversy has surrounded the snake. Religious authorities have debated whether the snake symbolizes the higher or lower kingdoms.
Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of goddess-centered civilizations in many areas, dating from 5,000 to 30,000 years ago. The artifacts are goddesses and high priestesses that were part of a peaceful world. In countries such as India and Mexico, goddess worship was destroyed by domineering male gods who killed the goddess and scattered her fragments all over the world. Now, groups like Echoes of the Goddess are putting the pieces of the goddess religion back together. As a gypsy dancer, Regina has breathed life into a tradition long forgotten.
It represents the rising of the consciousness, like the Kundalini power that is coiled on the bottom of your spine, and then your consciousness rises, and that's what I like to represent with the snake dance.
In her dance, the wise woman brings the snake, the symbol of knowledge, to be shared by all. Her learning from the snake progresses as the rising of the Kundalini power through the chakras, igniting creativity and awareness along the way. Once she has learned all there is to know and is ready to share her knowledge with the world, the wise woman comes and retrieves the snake. The snake dance has held particular importance in more than one culture. The Hopi Indians treat the snake dance as a religious ceremony for transformation and healing. With poisonous rattlers in their mouths, they dance and pray for rain to quench their parched crops. Then before the sun sets, they release the snakes into the desert to take their prayers to the gods of the underworld. The Hopis believe they emerged from Mother Earth, so these gods are in heaven. In voodoo, a combination of the African Udon religion and Catholicism, the snake dance is done after rituals to balance the energies. The snake represents their god, Damballa, and is the most powerful and sacred symbol of worship.
While the snake is represented in just about every culture, its meaning is different in nearly every one.
For Christian religions, the serpent is an evil creature, one which tempted Eve with the fruit of the tree of knowledge and caused the original sin. But the snake has long represented death and rebirth, like the shedding of the snake's skin, a cycle through which the soul is transformed. For the Aztecs, the snake embodied the earthbound nature of man and stood for their highest god, Quetzalcoatl. He was a dying hero, pictured as a feathered flying serpent who they believed would someday return. In Hinduism, gods are represented with serpents, one with snakes coiled around his wrist and neck, and another who sleeps on a serpent bed. The snake has a powerful energy people respect. In fact, to this day, the Cobra Festival is practiced without a single person bitten. In Burma, the cobra is so revered, this priestess drew a king cobra from underneath a rock. She kissed it 3 times on the head so it would bring rain for the next harvest. Ancient Egyptian imagery shows the snake as the highest godlike force. Egyptian pharaohs always wore a headband with a snake that stood for both inner vision and control of the universe. While some saw it as kind of an eye of Horus, others believed it to be the sacred eye of Ra.
The symbol of the American Medical Association, a staff with an intertwined snake, can be traced to ancient times, to the Greek god Asclepios. Similar to today, it means wisdom through healing. But it should not be confused with the caduceus, 2 intertwined snakes on a staff, held by the Greek god Hermes.
Whatever tradition you follow, the symbol of the snake has an important significance. The snake's shedding of the skin is like death and rebirth, discarding the past in order to continue to live. Something we should all strive for.
It may take a while to get completely comfortable with the snake, but the more we learn about it, the more we take the mystery out of the myth.
The state of Oregon has been the site of many strange happenings. Reports of monsters in Crater Lake, the 1909 Portland poltergeist outbreak, Bigfoot seen in Tillamook. Well, we've discovered yet another mystery here. Let's take a look. Experts seem to agree that UFO sightings center around certain areas for a few years. And then the focus moves on to new places. Over the last few years, the hottest spot for UFOs seemed to be Mexico, where, according to UFO magazine, thousands of sightings were reported, and some were caught on film and video by astonished onlookers. Now it appears that the best place to spot a UFO might be Central Oregon. So far this year, we've heard of many sightings there. Volcanoes are an attraction for UFOs, according to researchers. They hypothesize that the ships in some way use the Earth's geothermal energy, which remains in local hotspots, long after the volcano cools. Central Mexico and Central Oregon have had a great deal of relatively recent volcanic activity. The landscape of America's Northwest is dominated by many solitary volcanic peaks over 10,000 feet. In Central Oregon, several of these majestic mountains are clustered together. It is also the part of the range that underwent the most recent volcanic activity. And it is this area around the peaks called the Three Sisters that has reported the largest amount of recent UFO sightings. In the 1840s, these 3 volcanic mountains were named Faith, Hope, and Charity by the local Methodist camp. They later became known collectively as the Three Sisters. The U.S. Forest Service has designated the vast remote area the Three Sisters Wilderness Area. Open only to hikers, it's a place that has very little human disturbance. Most commonly, UFO reports involve a single passing or hovering ship in the air. But we were recently contacted by a backpacker who had the incredible experience of seeing several ships together on the ground. Now here is her amazing story.
Well, it was spring, and it was just starting to warm up. And I thought I'd take a hike for a couple of days out in the Three Sisters. I hiked in about 3 hours, and I got to a place where there were some great rock formations. I thought I'd camp there so I could hike around in the rocks in the next morning. I put my tent up on this kind of butte where I had this fantastic view. Then, I don't know, I think it was about 3 in the morning, I woke up because there was this bright light shining in through the tent. It was really, really weird. I couldn't imagine what it could be. I looked outside and I couldn't believe it. Down below, at the base of those huge rocks, I saw 3 circular objects. They were really bright, lighting up the whole area. It was the strangest thing I ever saw. I remember thinking, nobody is ever going to believe this. Then I saw a 4th one, and it actually was in the air, kind of hovering, and it started to land with the other ones. I was totally amazed. I started to feel very strange, like very weak all of a sudden. I'm not sure what happened then. All I know is I woke up outside the tent on the ground. I looked down there and there was nothing anywhere. I never sleepwalked in my life. I knew what I'd seen was real. I had to go down there and look around. There weren't that many trees in there with all the rocks, but the ones that were there were all charred. And there were these powdery ashes scattered around. I'm not one of those people that goes looking around for UFOs, but I'm convinced that this was something from another world.
But the story doesn't end there. Only days later, photographs and videos were taken in the area showing UFOs strikingly similar to those described by Karen. This shot was snapped by a local woman from her back porch. You can see 2 of the 3 sisters' peaks in the background. And this photo was taken by a tourist as he stood at a viewpoint area overlooking Bend. And this dramatic picture was captured on the night of May the 6th near the town of Sisters, Oregon. Extraordinary. But possibly the most interesting of all is this home video footage shot by a Los Angeles tourist, Jeff Kendall. When it's played back in slow motion, it's quite incredible. Are UFOs now focusing on Oregon because they have work to do there? Or is it just trendy for now? Either way, Oregonians keep a close eye on the sky.